since 25 years the European Union Prize for Contemporary Architecture, Mies van der Rohe Award, and is the biggest database of contemporary architecture. So, which means that really it's a cultural heritage for Europe. And I'm an architect too, so I'm very sensitive, of course, in architecture, education, and how we can improve our profession.
And what brings you to this conference? You know, this is about education in the digital era. Architecture is about building buildings in the physical world. So
yeah, I don't think so. I mean, architects are very freaky about technology. I mean, if you think that, for example, what you use your mobile phone, and there are many applications that are used for the city, to understand better the city, to move your GPS, to understand buildings. And yes, we are made to build buildings, but also technology influences us a lot, very much, either when we build, but also to understand the cities as well. So I'm interested to know how we can improve, for one side, our profession, and to fill the gap that sometimes we have, which any kind of disciplines we have. And and then to explain our practical cases.
Yeah, architecture training, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, is still done in a very traditional way, right? Mainly studio work and face-to-face teaching, where architecture practice has changed dramatically over the last few years, right? If you think of works like Zaha Hadid, and you know, they are extremely influenced by, and it could only be made possible by technology. Do you see a tension there between the way architects are trained and the way they actually work in practice?
Yes, there are still a tension, but although I think it's becoming less. There are many universities that they are already working with I would not say Skype, but with programs that are able to enable to work. Although you are, for example, in Singapore and then you're in Barcelona, or you are in Germany or somewhere else. So we can exchange professor even with a conference call, and we can also exchange some even supervision that the professor do with the students. It happens, it's still happening, not so much, so still there is a tension, which is true. You're right that offices like Zadid, but also others, they are smaller. They sometimes are European and working abroad, and then they have offices in 2 or 3 places in the world. How do they work? They have a little iPad. They have like a program inside, they even share with Google, and then they simply make a Skype call, and then they can even draw in their screens, and the other one is able to see what the other one is doing. So it's like a supervision from the main architect to the satellite offices. It's amazing. This is something that 10 years ago even was not be possible.
And also I think data is playing more and more role in architecture, right? With BIM becoming a big issue, and you know, architects having to incorporate sort of almost a data plan of their building alongside the sort of the structural and the architectural plan, right?
True. There are data, there are now programs, for example, not AutoCAD even anymore, that you can combine data of buildings, technical data, so for installations, for example, structure, with the design and the design of the building and the facade. Only one file. And then different disciplines, the installation, and then the architects and the structurists, the engineers can work together in the same file. That is amazing. This is an amount of data that we have and we are dealing with. Yes, we are dealing with complexity.
And does that make our living space more complex and more rich? I mean, you were saying something about the architects don't design buildings, they design society.
Yes.
Right, maybe you can, I mean, that sounds great, but what does it mean? What do you mean by that phrase?
It seems like we are the mule code, God, the society. Yes, it's true. I mean, we are living in a building. We are now in a building, and somebody has done it. Maybe perhaps an architect is a very classic one, so it has to be somebody that knew about architecture. We are working in the streets, and I mean, I don't want to be too much megalomaniac, but I think we are really shaping the society. In the places in which we live, we can do cities. Europe is the place in which there are not so many cities in the world like in Europe, so different to each other. And this is just done by architects. sorry to say that, an urban planner. I mean, I don't want to make these distinctions, but yeah.
And I think even Christopher Alexander talked about the city as a learning space, right?
Yes.
Do you see that, again, architects have a responsibility to kind of enhance our ability to learn through our movement in the city?
Wow, that's great. You're very well prepared. Congratulations. Well, yes, we are learning from this. We are learning. Well, one of the best teachers I ever had in my life, Giancarlo De Carlo, he said, you learn by watching around you, by watching the city, by watching the proportion, by watching the buildings, by proportion about everything. Streets, the wide of the streets with the high of the buildings, public spaces, or even the proportion inside the building itself. So we learn through,
To our interaction with
Yes.
the physical environment.
Yes.
And then, yet today we're talking mainly about the digital environment, right? How does the digital interleave with the physical? That's, I don't know if you have any ideas of that. It's kind of a big
Wow.
question, I guess. But,
Well, I want to think that the digital it's only a tool. It's a language, but it doesn't change the principle of what we do. And although there were, especially 20 years ago, there were some architect and legal company that starting to construct an architectural site through the digital era. Do I believe in that? Well, there are people that do. I'm not. I don't know. Let's say I prefer to say I don't know. I'm skeptical. But it's a fantastic tool. Yeah.
So it's still a tool that helps us improve the physical, but in the end we live in the physical.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, well thank you very much. It was
Thank you
very
too.
interesting.